What we're asking for, it was same as a total change of culture. Because even if you say, okay, modify the hijab, we do know that, you know, most of the dresses that is worn in northern parts of the country is kaftans. For both, it's kaftan-like. If you're not wearing a kaftan, you're wearing a bubu, you're wearing something which is usually free for both male and female. So are we going to say change mode of dressing only and simply because we want to be able to get, you know, people who are always, should we be deploying technology to this?
No. Yes, technology can work, but for these type of IEDs, I'm not too sure whether technology can, you know, pinpoint from a fairly good distance. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to be very expensive. Then, over and above that, and I think the mode of dressing in the north is not that strictly loose. No, but people wear neat and tight dresses. I have seen it, and the ladies' dress, which is actually in terms of culture and religion, is only expected to hide the curves, the cleavages on a lady, can be modified. And I'm saying it with all seriousness. Why don't you wear something that looks like a cape that covers up to the chest, that leaves from here down a lot free? You can. You can do that, and it does not affect the feelings about a lady displaying her futures. It can be done, and I believe it is possible. But I mean, it is not something that anybody can decree. Everybody should be convinced that it is necessary for us to protect ourselves. People wear it in the south here. I've seen a lot of people, the ladies in Puda going about with such things in Lagos here. But just thank goodness.
Let's take an instance now. You know,
it would have been just as deadly as that.
Because what you seem to be saying is that we must be able to cite suicide bombers from a distance.
Yes.
We must be able to identify them from a distance. Now let us assume that, you know, perhaps the way the person looks, we were not able to get immediately that this person was a suicide bomber. And then the person comes close enough for a search. And while searching, there is, you know,
an explosion.
No, there is, you begin to sense that there is something not quite right around here. What do you do with somebody who's strapped with explosives?
Yes, it's a 50-50 chance. If the IED is not the too sensitive type, maybe you could get close and search the person before the thing goes off. Or if it is the type that is electronically detonated, you are in for it. There's no chance. You don't have a chance to even search. And I believe that anything that has to be put on the body, the security agencies should have the equipment by which they can at least identify the carrier from a fair distance. And I say a fair distance.
I think that's what where I was going to. I wanted us to see a situation whereby we can learn from the Yobe community. There's something to learn from in Yobe State, because if they have been able to do it more than once, to identify some of these suicide bombers before they detonate their explosives, it means that they have some form of awareness on means of identification of such individuals. Don't you think by now people should also be speaking with some of them to better, you know, understand some, you know, discerning feature of those carrying these bombs?
Definitely. If there are discerning features that anybody can identify and point out, definitely, I'm sure they will do it. But my guess is that these people are already mixed with the public. And the only means by which they do it is go about in loose dresses. And that is where the danger lies.
So you really think that, well, we need to do something about that first and foremost and see how it plays out? About what we need to do, because we see that many of these attacks targeted at public places as markets, motor parks, and we know that several
theater houses.
Well, yeah. But the thing about those areas is, ever since these attacks started, I mean, have you noticed any major decision to reorganize or have a security overhaul of some of the markets out there and the motor parks as a result of this that's happening?
I have not noticed any major changes. And I think the reason is not far to fetch. Changing the orientation of our garages and so on is not a cheap thing. It's going to cost a bit of money.
Is that where the states come in, or the AFG can partner with the states?
Yes. The federal government, the states have to address these issues. Everything that needs to be done to ensure that the insurgents are denied the opportunity to carry out their nefarious activities should be put in place. The strategy is not going to be just spending money alone, but it's going to be in totality. It's going to involve education. It's going to involve economics. It's going to involve political education. It's going to involve information technology. Everything rolled together towards ensuring that the citizens are safe. Because the idea of the insurgent is to bring down the government in the eyes of the people.
I guess you just hit it on the head when you talked about education.
Yes.
It is very key here.
Yes,
if you talk about mode of dressing, and knowing that for women, they usually go around with bags, are you also going to ban handbags, for instance, if you put the explosive in your bag? So it means that education you've just highlighted is key here. We have to see a system where people can reorient, give some kind of reorientation to the people of such communities. Yes. Who can we be looking to help in that regard in such communities? For instance, in Nigeria's northeast region, there's so many pockets of, Islamic schools that they call Islamiyas, nomadic education people that are also there. How can we take this message to the children now, especially, as well as parents?
Yes, I believe that maybe you start probably even from the teachers in those schools. Start with the teachers in those schools to ensure that they pass the right information to these children. Then over and above that, you see, it's not a simple thing to tell a human being that it's easier for you to die and go to Ajano. But the process of education should be such that a child should be able to be brought up to question things. If a child questions, if I die, I go to Ajano. The next question from the child should be, have you been there before? That puts a stop to the person who is trying to propagate a wrong thing.
So this looks like a deliberate and long-term measure.
Yeah, it's a long-term measure. It's a long-term measure.
Another aspect, why I'm looking at education you touched on now, is there could also be the possibility of hero worship in that community. In such communities, they must have heard of some of the leaders of Boko Haram, to the extent that if we don't go all out, just the way some children will look at hero worship, Superman and Batman, they start thinking of these people, to the extent that when they are put somewhere and given some bad education, they just believe that they want to be like the bad man in that community. So hero worship is another thing.
Hero worship is there, but what can defeat hero worship? It is also economic. It's not just education, it's economic. If people are, you have hundreds of children that are deprived, that have no hope of a steady breakfast or lunch or something like that, and they see some guys who go around and they are distributing goodies all the time, of course they get attracted to them. You see, because there are a number of things that we need to do and that cannot be done over a short period, because we need a lot of investment in some of these things to be able to bring ourselves out of what we have settled in for a very, very long time. Politics in this country used to be, you know, a matter of somebody getting up somewhere as an emir or as a traditional ruler in a community and says, vote this way. But gradually we are moving out of it. We are moving out of it now. Everybody is now questioning, if I go that way, what is there for me? People are trying to ask questions now. And this is also part of what we are going to, we need to do in the northeastern part of the country. I believe that the tradition cannot change overnight, but at the same time, the economic drive of the government, and that is why I said it should be at the government level, that political, cultural, educational strategies will be put in place to ensure that we can get out of the areas that are being exploited by these characters.